Let's talk about devaluation versus depreciation. We'll talk about what these two things are and do a quick calculation for either one of these. So devaluation, that's when a country starts out with managing its currency and suddenly changes its currency regime so that maybe now it devalues the currency. You can see it goes down in value and then starts trading at another preferred range. Country may do that because of various exchange rate policies. Wants to decrease the value of its exchange rate for promoting exports or whatever, or it's a situation where it's managing its currency and it's managing it badly, and it finally, maybe it's extremely painful economically to keep this currency at a certain rate, and finally the government just sort of gives up and it realizes, hey, the economic cost of managing this currency is just not worth it, or it's too expensive. We don't have the reserves to keep this exchange rate at that certain rate. And so they just let it float. Whatever the market decides, it just floats. So a devaluation, the big idea is when a government goes from managing its currency to either dramatically shifting it to a new level and continuing to manage it, or from managing its currency and basically abandoning that exchange rate regime, just letting it float entirely. So a devaluation kind of points to a degree of control. Like there's government intervention or a lack of intervention that eventually occurs, but there's still like this government component to it. But a depreciation is not so controlled. A depreciation really only occurs for a country that's not managing its currency. A depreciation happens when the currency weakens, but that's just because of market forces. The government is like away doing business, something else entirely, and not doing anything related to the currency, not managing its currency. And market forces decide that the currency is weaker. That's when the currency depreciates. So just from a nomenclature perspective, that's the difference between devaluation and depreciation. Basically government, the differences in terms of government. So let's just take an example of calculating a decline in the currency and numerically, let's say that we were looking at the Venezuelan bolivar of 781 bolivares per 1 USD. And let's say that there's no government intervention. Let's just say that the Venezuelan economy, this is what it is. It's determined by market forces, and market forces subsequently decide through trading that the bolivar is worth 1,023 per 1 US dollar. So we see a decline in the value of the bolivar. Yes, this number goes up, but we know it's a decline because 1 USD is now buying much more bolivares. And because only market forces are involved, we call this a depreciation, because in this example, Venezuela is not managing its own currency. And to figure out how much this depreciation is, we take, and we do this because the bolivar is on top, in case you're wondering, the exchange rate before, and subtract from that the exchange rate after, this 1,023. And then we look at this, if we're looking at this on a percentage basis, we scale all this or divide it by the exchange rate after. And so this is sort of our formula for calculating the percentage depreciation using this exchange rate data. We take if this is our before and this is our after, then we take the before value of 781, subtract out the after value, and scale it by the after value to get our percentage difference. And our percentage depreciation then here is equal to minus 23.66%. So the bolivar has depreciated by 23.66%.